Hey Madison, it's executive producer Haley Sperling here. I want to let you know that at the end of today's episode, we've got a sponsored segment brought to you by Clean Wisconsin. I'll be chatting with Amy Barrio about some major recent changes to environmental protections and what they could mean for our health, our economy, and the future of clean energy right here in our state. It's definitely a conversation you don't want to miss. So stick around because we'll break down what's happening, why it matters, and what you can actually do to make a difference in our environment's future.
This is CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about. Today, being a leader in Madison is no easy task. There's the scrutiny and the politics. And when you're the CEO of a nonprofit that explicitly works to empower and uplift Black families, and you are a Black woman yourself, there is a whole additional level of surveillance that follows. That's what we're getting into today. Joining me is Brandi Grayson, CEO of Urban Triage. Brandi, welcome to CityCast Madison.
Thank you for having me. Bianca, I'm so glad to be here with you. I'm so excited.
Yes, I love seeing your smile, and you're always got some earrings that are rocking, and today's earrings are rocking as normal. Brandi, you are a person as well as a public figure. You regularly make headlines in the city, both positive and negative. First, Let's be human. How are you doing?
I'm actually doing all right, Bianca. I'm actually doing all right. I've been very intentional in the last 3 or 4 months to taking care of myself, unplugging, being by myself, isolating myself, and not to be acting funny, but to really attend to my nervous system and attend to my son, because as you pointed out, I'm not just a leader, I'm a person. And then that means that there's also personal stuff that occurs in my life and has occurred at the same time, which is how life is. When it lifes, you know.
Yeah, life be lifing. And high level, we're going to dig more into your work and some recent news that we want to hear your take on. But first, many locals have probably heard your name. Who is Brandi Grayson and what is Urban Triage?
Yeah, so Brandi Grayson is a 46-year-old woman. I'm almost 50, okay? My oldest baby is 32. I had my first child when I was 13. So I am someone who has survived the unthinkable. I had my baby at 13, ran the streets in my 20s, and built the empire in my 30s. So I'm someone who didn't know who she was and still is uncovering and unfolding into who I am. I've ran Black Lives Matters movement, organized thousands across the state. I took a thought and a dream and built it from my kitchen table, which is now what Urban Triage represents. Urban Triage is a nonprofit organization providing direct services. We're expert in housing folks who are chronically homeless, hard to house. We go out in communities, we do outreach, we find them, we connect them with resources, we do assessments, we connect them with landlords, folks we've built partnerships with over the years who always are willing to work with us, and the hard to house people we honor and center. We do agriculture. We grow food. We distribute between 5,000 and 10,000 pounds of organic produce a year. And we teach people how to farm, how to enter ventures for agriculture. And we run a specialty crop group, which is full spectrum hemp. But we'll get into that because we just currently launched our Less Noise wellness product line, with all the revenues coming back to Urban Triage, supporting the work that we're doing. So I'm a person who believes in meeting people where they're at. I believe in lived experience is the expertise. I am from the community that I serve. I am someone who was homeless, living in the streets, someone who grew up in the 80s with a crack addicted mother. That's why I had a baby at 13, unprotected. And I made a decision that I was going to do something different. I didn't know the how. I didn't have the manual, but I figured it out. And now I'm sitting in the seat that I am. I'm creating a legacy for my son and generational wealth and teaching other people how to do that. And I am the person that gets under most people's skins. So here I am. Thanks, Bianca, for having me.
You really do. And for lots of people, very positive. But yeah, you seem to get under folks' skin. I love the less noise because that's very prevalent for what we're going to talk about. And also, I love how you just laid out you're a human being and you've been living and growing and spent so much of your time dedicated to Madison. I know you as someone who's just such a powerhouse and an incredibly eloquent and poignant speaker and a standout leader. And Yeah, you are constantly in the headlines. And let's turn to those. Starting with the big story right now that's getting a lot of media attention, whether it's worthy of it or not. We want to hear your side of the story. Late last year, you and school board vice president Maya Pearson were arrested for a quote unquote disturbance downtown around an alleged parking incident that seems to have got out of hand. Police were called, and as a result, you were charged with 2 misdemeanors. Can you just tell us what happened that night from your perspective and lived experience, and what's happened since?
Yeah, girl. So let me give you the tea. Okay. So I'm at the Black Men's Coalition Gala that's happening at Edgewater. We leave Edgewater probably about 10:30. We're going to their after party, which is scheduled to be at the Merchant. I pull up in the back of Majestic, and there's some cones. Like sometimes the Majestic will put cones out there when they have concerts to block off and hold for their trucks or whatever. But all the trucks were gone. The concert was over. People were done. So I'm like, oh, they're done. So I pull in between the cones and I park. And Maya is my passenger. Maya doesn't drink. And we didn't even go to the gala together. I was at the gala. We're both going to the after set. And I say, hey, girl, you want to ride? She's like, yeah, I'll take a ride. So I pull up in the parking spot and a guy knocks on the window and says, you can't park here. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I try to be cute, girl, because I was fly. If you see my seat cap arrest picture, I was hot that night, okay? So I'm trying to be cute, right? But he ain't going for that shit, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I'll move in a second. He's like, no, you need to move now. And he knocks on my window again. And I'm like, dude, chill. Give me a second. I'm about to pull off. And then he goes to get his manager. She comes out screaming. It's like, you need to move your car now. I don't know who you think you are. So I roll down my window and I smile. And I say, girl, I don't know what you on tonight, but you need to chill. And what I can tell you is that I didn't cuss at her. I wasn't aggressive. There was no there just was nothing. It was just angry people and me being in a really good mood. So then she goes to get someone else, another woman. And she knocks on my door and she pulls out her phone. It's like, I'm going to record you. I'm calling the police. And then I rolled down my window and I was like, look, chill, Karen. You acting real caring now. Chill. We're good. I'm about to move. And then I pull up to move. And then I drop something. I dropped the lighter. And then I get out my car, open the door to get out my car to grab the lighter on the floor. And then I jump back in my car. And as soon as I'm about to close the door, there's 3 police officers at my door. I look back. They have blocked the whole street off on both sides. But they show up, girl, like I'm the most wanted, okay? I mean, 10 cars deep, police everywhere. There's Black people everywhere because we're coming from the Black Men's Coalition, which means it's a lot of Black people out there. So 3 cops walk up to me. One lady says, get out the car now. She doesn't say anything to me. And I'm like, girl, what? Like, what am I getting out the car for? And I'm laughing. And Bianca, I have a video of me because Maya's in the passenger seat. She starts recording immediately. So my hands are up in the car and I'm like, what is going on? Why do I have to get out the car? And another cop comes up and said, I'm not going to tell you again. You need to get out the car now. And again, I say, what is going on? Why do you need me to get out the car? Next thing you know, they snatch me out the car, throw me on the snowbank, slam me up against the wall and say, you're under arrest. That's it.
Which isn't it within your right to ask, why are you...
Apparently
what's
not.
the problem?
No. So apparently, when a cop tells you to get out the car, you're not actually allowed to ask why, because they can say that is disorderly conduct or resisting arrest. So the moment I said, what is going on? Why do I need to get out the car? They hit me with resisting arrest. And then by questioning them, they hit me with disorderly conduct. And then when the woman, I don't even know their names. I don't even know who these people are. But whoever called the police, they told them that I got out the car, I was throwing things at them, and I was trying to run them over with my vehicle. What we call this is weaponizing police, right? So this woman calls the police, tells a whole story about what I did. And then the police shows up without questioning, asking questions, investigating, and demand that I get out the car. And for someone who's in a parking spot, I really didn't know what was going on. Maya's in the passenger seat. She has nothing to do with this, right? She didn't park there. She wasn't the driver. And then they come on her side as she's recording me, they come on her side, demand she gets out the car. And Maya responds by saying, Why do I need to get out the car? What is going on? And then she screams, help, like, because she's like, now we're all nervous. They hit her with a disorderly conduct.
Hearing that you're being policed by non-policemen about where you're parking, and that it went to that level so quickly, and it went to that level of, I am going to call the police to arrest you because I feel afraid of you, that was one of the early things that had me like, I want to know more about what happened here, because this is what happens when somebody is parking in a spot they're not supposed to park in. And I'll say there was bystander video footage posted online, and it showed Maya being ripped out of the car by what looked like 4 officers, who then forcibly pushed her to the ground with 2 more standing by. And it is so deeply disturbing and uncomfortable to watch, to see a woman thrown to the ground. No doubt in my life, I would be terrified for my life and my friend's life. And I'm just sorry that you had to go through that, and so publicly.
Yeah, it was traumatic. It was horrific. And then once they pulled her out the car, they had officers jump on her back, put their knees in her back. She did nothing except for say, what are you doing? Right? I did nothing but say, what are you doing? So then they throw us in separate police cars. Then they drive the police cars in the back of Sardines, which is off of Wilson Street. It's dark. It's off the lake. There's no lights. There's no cameras. And they put us in separate cars. They pull us into the lot, and then they surround the 2 cars with at least 6 or 7 more police cars. So I'm in back of the car asking, what is going on? If you're arresting me, take me to the police station right now. I do not feel safe. This is not okay. What are you doing? Why is this happening? And then I look over to my right, and I see Maya in the police car next to me, and she's laying on her stomach with her hands in her back. And again, there's 4 or 5 cops inside the police car. And apparently the police officer asked me if I was willing to do a breathalyzer or something, but she never asked me. She never asked me. So then she gets on the phone, and she calls the judge for a warrant. I don't know what the warrant is for. So what I assume it's for is for my car, because I'm really confused about what's going on. So as she's on the phone, I say to her, I'm in the back of the car. I feel unsafe. I feel unsafe. What are you doing? What is going on? If you don't need a warrant for my car, because the one thing she does say is like, I'm calling to get a warrant. I'm like, you don't need a warrant for my car. What do you think? There's drugs in there? Just look in my car, you know? And then later I find out, after she gets off the phone and then she pulls off, she's taking, and mind you, we were in back of Sardinians for 2 hours. We make it to the hospital. They take us to the hospital. So the warrant was for my blood draw. I didn't know it. I didn't know I was being charged with OWI, because where did that come from? Right? Where did it come from? So she hits me with OWI, refusal to take a sobriety, which I did not. I did not refuse. She never asked me the question. And they hit me with 3 disorderlies, 1 for running over a cone, 1 for the police officer, and 1 for the person who called the police. So when I finally went to court, they dropped all the charges down to 1 disorderly. But if I was going to fight the disorderly, I would have to pay my attorney $5,000. I don't have $5,000. I don't have the time to fight this. So I was forced to take a charge for disorderly for the person who called the police on me. The court order is I cannot have contact, go into the Majestics or have contact with people I don't even know, who lied. None of what they said happened. And I really feel sorry for Maya, because what did she do wrong except for be a passenger in the vehicle?
It sounds so deeply traumatic and stressful and frightening. And, you know, I have to say, obviously, I wasn't there. I won't pretend to know all of the particulars. And there are a couple things that went through my mind as a Black American, which is, who gets to have any kind of bad day? Not saying that you were having a bad day. Sounds like you're having a good day. But let's say, okay, how it was interpreted by the people around, you know, like, we don't want you parking here. Oh, she's talking to me in a way that I don't feel good about. Like, that ends up leading to being thrust to the ground by multiple officers for Maya, and by being detained and being in this situation that, like you said, has changed your record for life, and that they've dismissed several of the charges. I mean, I also want to say that there's some data to back up the thought of why you'd be nervous, right? And I'm pulling this data from a prison policy initiative analysis of U.S. Bureau of Justice data from 2022. That bureau is the U.S.'s primary source for criminal justice stats. Black people experience police misconduct 6 times the rate of white people in our country. For Hispanic people, it's 2 times the rate of white people. And and this is for incidents initiated by police or traffic violations, Black people were over 3 times as likely as white people to experience the threat or use of force, defined as handcuffing, pushing, grabbing, hitting, kicking, using a weapon, or other use of a non-fatal force.
Yeah.
And we've all seen the video of George Floyd. There are so many examples of available evidence that you can be treated poorly by the police.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that it's inevitable. And there are a lot of police that are not doing misconduct, but the fear and wanting to understand why should I get out of my vehicle, what is happening, it's a lot.
It's a lot. And what even makes it more compounded for me is that after the DA got all the police reports, it took them like 2 or 3 months to even charge us because they knew it wasn't right. Anybody else you'd have charged immediately. The experience, and my personal experience, was compounded by my work in social justice and protesting and organizing. Because when I was organizing and leading Black Lives Matter protests, I was organizing against systems, right? And that included the criminal justice system. It included our district attorney's office. It included a whole different entities or systems or institutions. So I can assume that things felt personal, right? But I don't know if that's facts, but that's my own type of interpretation. So when it came down to it, proving a point or humbling me, I feel like that's why I'm always in the news. People are consistently attempting to humble me, right? You're not who you think you are, Brandi. You're not that girl. You're not it. And it's something that has been, there's evidence and data that proves that people often attempt to humble Black women when they perceive them with power or influence. So that's what happens a lot. People try to humble me. And I have to work very intentional and deliberately to root my nervous system and root it in something outside of myself. And for me, that's the practice of being in alignment with God, because I don't know if I could hold all of this without that center for me. So I'll just say that.
It is so much to hold in your nervous system. And I can't thank you enough for sharing your experience. And, we don't want to just talk about controversy. We have a little bit more of that to dig into, specifically about why people cannot seem to stop trying to humble you. But I want to talk about what you do in Madison, what your work is at Urban Triage as the founder and the CEO. You lead the nonprofit's work to support some of Madison's most vulnerable people, like you said, into stable housing and beyond. For folks who are unfamiliar with your efforts, how would you describe Urban Triage's role in the Madison community?
First, I would like to acknowledge that we are the only Black organization doing housing work, right? We're the only Black-led, Black-centered organization at every table for housing. So I think that's a big deal, and I think that's revolutionary. And 2, we became a part of the housing work when COVID hit, and we were selected to receive approximately $20 million in resources to allocate to our community. And that's really when the hate started. The grassroots were one thing, the organizing was another, but then you took this microphone bearing mega and you gave her $20 million, right? So I think really that's when the need to humble me began. When people started having allegations, when people said, oh, check her infrastructure for her financial management, all these lies in the newspaper started happening. She needs an audit. She needs this. And can I just celebrate me for a second in Urban Triage?
Yes, I'm like, we're going to need to do that immediately after the tough story.
We celebrate the fact that, yes, we distributed $20 million without missing a dime, a penny, a cent. Everything was in order. Our financial internal controls is T, okay? And then we continue to do the work in our communities, meeting all deliverables of our contracts, housing people quicker than most organizations who have been doing it for 15, 20 years. And why? Because we employ the people we serve. So the people that are doing the work for us are the people that we serve, right? Which means that they have a different outlook and they have a different commitment and a different will. And I always say that you can teach people the skill, but you can't teach them the will. You can't, you can take somebody from a UW Madison or University of Harvard and put them in this position and they can understand conceptually, but the work is experiential, right? Like you need people who have lived experience, have been there, done that, because this is personal. This is human work. This is hard work. So that's the foundation of urban triage. And that's what separates us from anyone else. And that's what makes our work so amazing. And that's why we hit the deliverables on everything. And I'm an exceptional human being that expects exceptional work from my staff, which is a whole nother different level. And we also do trauma recovery. We do system analysis within our organization because the people that we serve carry the most trauma. They carry the most dysregulated nervous system. So we have to teach not just the hard skills, the soft skills, and the trauma skills. So I'm proud of what we're doing. We just launched Less Noise. Y'all come visit us. lessnoisewellness.org. Order some products, all certified, third-party, licensed, organic. All revenue comes back to our agriculture program. And we lost millions when Trump took office. So this is historical.
Let's pause there for a second. Less Noise Wellness, your hemp wellness movement here. So I see hemp products like balms, gummies, pre-rolls. And I don't know if you want to speak a little bit more, but talk about physiological stress is real and dealing with the trauma. And I myself, I'm like, I want to know more because I just tried to drive by a place that's near me and I miss its open hours every single time. But what else can people know about Less Noise Wellness?
Everything's locally grown. We grow our hemp in our program. So we teach people how to grow hemp through our specialty crop program. We've been doing it for 3 years. We just didn't have a company that produced the actual products, but we've been supporting entrepreneurs to develop their own products that utilize hemp as an ingredient and how to take it to market, building business plans, giving people seed grants to start their businesses. Our hemp comes from our farm, which is all organic. Our manufacturing is carbon cannabis out of La Crosse. Again, everything local, everything clean. We're really excited. And the products I made sure is organic, and I made sure that they specialize in our nervous system to calm our nervous system. We have 2 products only. One is to when you have a hard time sleeping, we have a product for that. When you just need something to help ease your anxiety, because maybe you have social anxiety. I have really bad social anxiety, y'all. Y'all may not know that because I'm so outgoing, but oh my God, when I got to talk and be around people, I get heart palpitations because there's so much going on. I got to deal with other people's energy. So sometimes I just need something to take the edge off. So that's what our products is about. It's about less noise, quieting yourself, going within, getting to know you without all the noise.
Yeah, no, it sounds really great and completely relevant to what we've been talking about, which is having to regulate your stress, regulate your nervous system. And I mean, that is something I imagine you have had to become a magi in, truly versed, because I want to talk a bit about what you were just discussing about the scrutiny on your guys' finances. Because the reason we're talking today really is a direct result of our team here at CityCast Madison witnessing what seemed like hyper unequally distributed scrutiny on you and Urban Triage coming from local media outlets. We talked about it on one of our Friday news roundups. This was late last year when the local news station Channel 3000 wrote and then later rescinded an article about Urban Triage's finances. They took it down. And I don't want to and will not be resurfacing any false claims.
Yeah.
But we were ticked.
Yeah.
Like, for real. And our team struggled to think of any other nonprofits that have experienced the same treatment.
Yeah.
Why do you think you're scrutinized this way?
Well, let's see, Bianca. I would just say, I mean, I'm Black. I mean, and not only am I Black, I'm dark skinned. This colorism is always active. Racism's always active. That intersection is real. And not only that, I'm intelligent. I'm not, you can't move me. You can't threaten me. I'm not afraid of you. And people must understand that the politics in Madison is predicated on being chosen. You can't have a Black leader in Madison without being chosen, without going through the appropriate channels, without people being like, okay, yeah, she's good. I didn't take that channel. I didn't go through that. I didn't ask for people permission. I didn't show up to these rooms. I'm really a great grant writer. I'm a great writer. I'm a great speaker. So I focused on the writing, and that got us the money. So I kind of bypassed this kind of program system about who's the chosen Black people, who's the safe Black people. And that is a problem, Bianca, because you're supposed to follow the rules. So not only is white folks or white men mad or this media outlet mad, Black people be mad. I've been trying to get to her level for 15, 20 years going by this written rule. And she comes along in 5 years and lifts up an organization, distributes millions. I have 3 office locations employing 25 people. Who does she think she is? So now we need to humble her and remind her of her role. So I think that's what it is, Bianca. I don't know what else to say about it, but hey.
Honestly, I don't hear about the sort of alleged missteps and mistakes from other nonprofits the way folks have urban triage in their mouth. And I'm not trying to sling mud by bringing this up, but even when Goodman Center, who also does good work, they had an employee charged with embezzlement, bona fide fraud. We didn't hear anyone calling for an investigation into their CEO's efficacy as a leader. Interestingly, she is a Black woman, but there seems like there is something about you. And I'll just say, shit happens, right? Yeah. And some people in Madison are given grace and the benefit of the doubt to fix issues. And like, I'll just be as bold to say, I think your confidence, people read it as arrogance. I do not. Yeah. Your boldness as threatening. And your lack of code switching with your language, you are a proud Black woman, that might, does she belong here? Which is racism. Yeah. And so it's like you're facing racism, sexism, and this one, the tall poppy syndrome. Because the tall poppy syndrome is when there's a tall poppy, someone's going to pick it. Like it's going to get picked, you know, when it's a flower that stands out and you're bright, you wear bright colors, you live in beautiful style and poise, you speak well, you stand out. And I think you do suffer from tall poppy syndrome.
I like it. I never even thought about that, Bianca. Thank you. I'm going to give me a shirt.
Yeah, you're not hiding. And I want to lean into something else you said, which is, you know, and this is something that I was having brunch with a powerful Black woman in Madison the other day. And she said, Madison has people who love to be kingmakers. And they need to decide who gets to be in front. And if they didn't decide on you, you are a target. If they did decide on you and you get more power or you move away from what they wanted you to do, you are a target. And that I was shook. The way we can be a threat to their power and status quo, it's like, well, I put you there. Or if I didn't put you there, I should have put you there. No, it's absolutely a lot. And I know I've been talking for a minute here, but I have more to say, and so just buckle in. But I want to broaden the lens because you experienced this. And last year in 2025, you and several other prominent Black female leaders in our area alleged to have faced harassment from a few prominent white men in the city. And this has been in the news lately. Things escalated to where now one of the women, City Council President Sabrina Madison, attempted to get a restraining order against one of the men, though that was ultimately denied. I just spoke with Michael Johnson, the CEO of Dane County's Boys and Girls Clubs, and Miss Wisconsin, Willow Newell, who's 23, on the show. They're both public-facing Black leaders. They had a laundry list of harassment experiences. And you posted last month on Facebook, and it got a really big response about what happens to Black-led organizations in Madison. The long and short, people look to control them. Your post was a response to the recent proposed change by the city council to Madison's independent police monitor, essentially adding more city oversight to this oversight agency, which is now led by a Black woman. I myself have received shocking reactions and maneuvers and ugly attempts to delegitimize my work. And I think it's fair to say, I'll pose this as a question, sort of. Madison has a problem.
Yeah.
They want us, but they don't really want us in charge.
And I would just say, not just Madison. Madison is a microcosm of the bigger world, right? The macro of what racism looks like. People love Black people. They love our flow. They love our swag. They love our style. But they only like you so much, right? They don't want you to be unapologetically you. Be Black, but not too Black. Be proud, but not proud. Don't say it loud, you're Black and proud. Just be Black and be quiet. And when I say I love all people and color, I don't see color, don't be offended, because let me be in my privilege, right? They don't want you to challenge the system. They want you to stay status quo. I think someone says everybody want to be Black, but nobody want to be the N-word, right? And that really means like people want to take on, and I mean, across the globe, everybody loves Black Americans. And there's something special about that we must stand in. When you are innately powerful and magnificent and marvelous and brilliant, like you said, the brilliance will shine and people want to just pick at it and they want to duplicate it and imitate it. The challenge is when you don't know that you're that poppy. That's when we start participating in it. And then we start aligning with the status quo and be like, yeah, we didn't pick her. You're right, Bob. We didn't pick Brandi to do that work. She needs to be stopped, So I just say to all my listeners, all your listeners, Bianca.
They're listening to you, so they're both of ours right now. That's fair. I love it.
I just want to say to all y'all, it doesn't matter your color. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter where you're at in life. You have to be true to you and you have to stand on it. And you have to figure it out what your purpose is, what your goal is, and stand on it. And the thing about the universe and this energy that we have known as God, it's going to open amazing doors for you. The reason people are mad is because I wasn't supposed to have that door open. I wasn't supposed to go from grassroots organizing to managing businesses. I wasn't even supposed to be that smart for real, right? But what people don't understand is academics don't make you smart. It's amazing how trauma creates brilliance and how we don't tap into that brilliance enough, and especially for people known as Black. So to all your listeners and all the brilliant people out there, continue to be brilliant, sis. Continue to be bold. And when you hear something inside you that says not this, whether it's a relationship, a person, or a situation, trust it. Leave it alone. Okay, not this. Okay. And they ain't look, they could keep trying, but not this, sis. We good over here,
Yeah. Well, that post on Facebook that you did around the police monitor, it was a much more far reaching, like what you were talking about. It's this situation, it's more situations. And in the comments, there are folks who are like, oh, I see myself in all of this. And I'm curious if it would be all right. You really honed in that Facebook post about what it takes to perform, that Madison is this space where we have to perform. Do you mind if I read a bit of your post?
No, girl.
Okay, because it's powerful. You said, quote, "What is also true, especially in Madison, is that Black people and people of color who step into these spaces are required to perform professionalism, perform alignment, perform restraint, perform collaboration," end quotes. All while navigating systems that were not built for us, and in many cases were built to contain us.
Yeah.
We've been speaking on this. It hit so hard for me. Can you talk a bit about what it means to be asked to perform in the city?
Oh, I would say that the performance has amplified because of what's happening in our federal government and administration. And what's required of us is to never challenge racism. That's what's required. It's required of us to agree to things that we know that are harmful. And it's required of us to accept money and funding for program designs, because the funder decides what the program design is, right? You get to execute on their vision, right? So we have to perform to say, yep, I'm going to do it exactly how you say you want it done, knowing that the way you want it done is inefficient. Right. So we have to figure out a way to do the work, because you can't do the work without the money. And the only thing that funds vulnerable populations and direct services is orchestrated by the system. So we're literally attempting to use what they, like Audre Lorde said in her writing, we're attempting to use the master's tool to dismantle the building. So we're constantly trying to scoop out. I imagine it like sand. You scoop out sand and it falls right back in. That's what we're doing every day. Like, we're trying to scoop out racism, scoop out sexism, scoop out homophobia, all the isms. And then before you turn around and get to work, it's the sand's back in there. So we're constantly trying to figure out.
We're still in the same box.
We're still in the same box. And Madison requires you to act like you're docile. So a lot of the people that I talk to in Black leadership, that everyone like, oh, I just love this person, I love this person, they're very quiet out front. They don't say much. But then when I talk to them, they reflected me back to me, and we all like, girl, yeah. Da, da, da. But then when they get out front, they're like, no, so yeah, I don't think that's true. And I'm like, girl, I just talked to you. What is not what you were saying, right? So it requires us to wear a veil. It requires us not to be authentic. And over time, we lose ourselves. And we forget that we performing. And then that mask gets stuck. And then you become resentful. And then you start to wonder, why am I so unhappy? I got the money, I got the job, I got the position, but I feel a void, because you lost yourself, sis. You lost yourself. And that's what the system does to us. It's so insidious. It's so insidious.
And it's disheartening to see it ultimately being ineffective as well,
Yes.
because there aren't the fundamental changes happening. And yeah, I mean, Maya Angelou, I wear the mask, and it's heavy.
It's heavy.
It's heavy. So this has been a very powerful conversation, as expected. And it's great to hear your perspective. And I'm sorry that you are holding the challenges that you're holding. And it is a community.
Yeah, and donate, because what happens when in the small cities, soon as all these allegations, false allegations hit, and the rest, we lost donors, we lost money, we lost funding. It doesn't just impact me. It impacts the whole organization, which then impacts the people we serve. We do the work. We serve the most vulnerable. We serve people nobody else is serving. And every other organization doing the work send their clients to us. So you're paying them, but we're actually doing the work. And I just need people to understand that. Like, this isn't a facade. This isn't something that we're performing. The people we hire love the work that they do, and we're serious about the work that we do. So if you're serious about combating racism, eliminating racism, standing with the most vulnerable, then I'm going to ask you to donate to Urban Triage. Donate, become a recurring donor. Help us sustain in this time of uncertainty when everything is against Blackness and vulnerable populations, right? Our website is urbantriage.org. If you don't want to donate, or you feel like you need something tangible, then go on noisewellness.org and buy products, and that supports the work, right? So just know, like, y'all, like, we are doing our best. And let me just say this. I don't feel bad about what I have to carry. With great power comes great responsibility. And the better you get at things, the more responsibility you get and the more power you get. And I'm not talking about the systemic power. I'm talking about the power to influence change, the power that creates a ripple effect in my family, the power that corrects generational trauma. So this just isn't about now. This is about our past, and this is about our future. So yes, this work is hard. Yes, sometimes I get weary. Sometimes I rage. Sometimes I cry. Sometimes I feel so lonely. I don't know what to do. But I promise you, I go to my source, I re-up, and I get back to it, because that's what we've been trained to do too in the system. We already have the wisdom. People known as Black have survived the unthinkable. So don't think for a second that we won't survive this, okay? Amen?
Amen. And I mean, yes, and
yes.
you're doing it and you're holding it down. And like you said, the community can be of support. And I really saw that when the Dane County executive, Melissa Agard, that office reached out publicly to ask Channel 3000 to take down their reporting that was casting aspersions about your work because they're like, this is actually inaccurate.
Yeah.
This is
Shout out
actually
to
inaccurate.
Yeah.
And so we're doing what we can and offer everyone the space in Madison we need to grow together.
Yeah.
We need to grow
Amen.
together. Yeah.
We do. And I appreciate you so much. And I listen to the podcast.
That means a lot. That means a lot. And I appreciate your light. Thank you, Brandi, for coming on and being so vulnerable and sharing, what you've been through and that you're still trucking.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
That's Brandi Grayson, CEO of Urban Triage. And hey, stay tuned. Executive producer Haley Sperling is going to hop in with a conversation about changes to environmental protection with Clean Wisconsin Communications Director Amy Berrio.
CityCast Madison executive producer Haley Sperling here with Amy Berrio, communications director at Clean Wisconsin. Hi, Amy.
Hey, how are you?
I am doing pretty well, and today we've got some big topics to cover. There has been a lot of environmental news lately, from this quote-unquote big beautiful bill to changes at the EPA. For folks who haven't been following so closely, how does what's going on at the national level impact us here in Wisconsin?
Well, you mentioned that big beautiful bill. So that is basically the federal budget that passed about a year ago. And the impacts here in Wisconsin are pretty immediate from that because basically that took away incentives for clean energy, wind and solar, things like that, and then gave big oil and gas and coal an additional $40 billion in tax breaks. And so that might seem like, well, I don't really know how that impacts me, but here in Wisconsin, things like tax credits for rooftop solar or an EV or for new windows or efficient furnaces, that all went away at the end of last year. And then in a bigger picture way, tax incentives for solar farms or wind farms, that's all going away here in the next year. So what we're seeing is this kind of shift from supporting energy that we can produce here in Wisconsin, like wind and solar, to federal incentives for things that we can't produce here in Wisconsin, like oil, coal, and gas. And so that impacts our energy bills. The estimate is that our energy bills are going to go up by $300 a year in the next 10 years, just because we are kind of hampering that investment in cheaper wind and solar energy.
Wow. So that touches, honestly, just about every part of life here in Wisconsin. I mean, you mentioned shifts towards fossil fuel companies, rolling back on clean energy investments. You mentioned that our energy bills could be going up by hundreds of dollars a year. Not just environmentally, like, how else will this impact people's health and everyday life in Wisconsin as well?
You hear about fossil fuels, and maybe you don't really think about what that means, but it's basically burning things, burning coal or burning gas or burning natural gas. And every time you do that, chemicals are released and they're harmful. So big swaths of Wisconsin are already in what's known as non-attainment for ozone pollution, for example. When you have bad ozone days, if you have asthma or other chronic health conditions, then that's really harmful. So that is one of the things that people don't always think about. Even just, you've heard about fish limits. You can't eat some fish too often because it has mercury in it. Well, that mercury comes from burning coal at power plants. And we don't always make that connection. You know, it didn't just get into the fish by magic. It is really has to do with the things that we do to create energy. So those kinds of decisions being made at the federal level kind of trickle down and impact a whole lot of things that we do and the ways that we live our lives and our chance to be healthy here in Wisconsin.
Wow. Yeah. I guess I never really considered that trickle down effect of, I walk past those like don't eat more than one fish a month sign by the lakes all the time, but never really stopped to consider why it actually got that way. That's wild. And, I understand that Clean Wisconsin is actually suing the EPA over some big things, over rolling back the endangerment finding. Can you explain what exactly that is in plain terms and why losing it is actually a really big deal?
Yeah, so the endangerment finding is actually the EPA's own 2009 finding after years of scientific research that climate change hurts people. because the EPA's job, its whole role, is to protect public health. Any regulations it comes out with have to be something that protect public health. That finding allowed the EPA to regulate greenhouse gas emissions. It's the major tool that the EPA has to do that. Recently, the EPA said, well, we don't want to do that anymore. So we're going to rescind that finding. So Clean Wisconsin filed a lawsuit in federal court against the EPA because there's no legal or scientific basis for getting rid of this endangerment finding just because you don't want to regulate greenhouse gas emissions anymore. So it's incredibly important, in that big picture fight against climate change.
I often think about the plights of our environment and I get overwhelmed. I feel a lot of anxiety, some grief, and honestly, like fear for the future. So for listeners and people like myself who are hearing all of this and might be feeling similar, what can people actually do right now to make a difference and bring some hope into the picture?
Yeah, and it's easy to find yourself in a dark place. Our whole conversation that we had just now is kind of like, oh gosh. But first, you need to think about how far we've come. There were times in Wisconsin when the Wisconsin River, certainly the Fox River, the Milwaukee River, these were terribly polluted water bodies. There were times when, you'd go outside, you'd be breathing in leaded gas fumes. We've made so much progress since the environmental movement was born, and we can't lose sight of that. And then there are always things that you can do. At Clean Wisconsin, we have an action alert page, so cleanwisconsin.org/action. And you can sign up and here's how you can support clean energy, or here's how you can support legislation that protects our waterways. There are always things that you can do. It's not like protecting the environment is, oh, we protected it and now we're done. We can go take naps now. You're always having to protect the environment, and there are always ways to plug in. And people have a lot of power when they choose to do that. I host an environmental podcast, The Defender, and I'm always talking to guests who are doing all kinds of incredible things all over Wisconsin to make a difference.
One person really can make a difference, even in our big environment. Amy, thank you so much for being here today. This was a really enlightening conversation.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Listeners, if you want to learn more, check out the Defender podcast at cleanwisconsin.org/podcast. We'll drop that link in our show notes too, so you're just one click away. Thanks for listening.
That's all for today here on CityCast Madison. I'm your host, Bianca Martin. Don't forget, you can support the show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Madison neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. And if you enjoyed today's show, why not share this episode with somebody who cares about accountability, transparency, and community? Y'all. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more stories from around the city. Until then, take good care and thanks for listening.